We, the world, face a lot of challenges. Before we can solve them, we need to fundamentally rethink how we look at innovation. But first, a question. How many of you consider yourselves to be inventors? Raise your hands. I think 1 or 2 hands. I can work with that. I've been inventing since I was 12. I have 1 patent and another pending, and a lot of people find that kind of amazing. Apparently the person who introduced me does too. But I find it rather surprising that people find it amazing, because while I grew up with the narrative that everybody hears of the genius inventor, the Edison, the Graham Bell, completely unparalleled, you can't touch them, you can't do anything like them, right? I grew up with a counter-narrative, that of my grandfather. He was born on the wrong side of the tracks in a working-class family in Charleston, and he went on to help save the men on the Apollo 13 and found his own scientific research company. He showed me that inventing was something anyone, no matter where they come from or who they are, can do, and gave me the confidence to try my hand at it. And it really is something anyone can do. It's in our blood. It's one of the things that separates us from the animals. It is problem solving with a physical solution, and we solve problems every day. You find a problem, research it, design possible solutions, build them, and test them. It's that simple. So let's ask again. How many of you consider yourselves to be problem solvers? Raise your hands. Now we're getting someplace. My first invention was the rescue travois. During the Somali famine of 2011, parents and their children walked 2 to 3 weeks to refugee centers. And the average African family has 4 children. And when those children became too weak to continue on, their parents were forced to decide which children lived and which were left by the roadsides to die. When I saw this, I thought, there's got to be something somebody can do. And so I started looking and ended up developing the travois, rescue travois, based on an invention of the Native American Plains Indians. The rescue travois has received a fair bit of attention from aid organizations because while it's very useful in the refugee situations, it's also inexpensive enough to be used in situations where you have the weak, elderly, sick, those in delivery distress, who need to be transported from small rural villages to larger villages with doctors. My second invention was the emergency mask pod. Over 40% of fire deaths are due to smoke inhalation alone. And many of those occur when people are trapped on the second stories waiting for firefighters to arrive and rescue them. At the time that I came to the problem, nobody had developed a way for first responders to deliver smoke masks to people trapped inside, giving the firefighters more time to reach them. So I did. The simple football-shaped emergency mask pod has been tested by over 30 firefighters, and it works. Now, as you can see, my inventions are simple. Any of you, in fact, anyone with a bit of effort, could have done the same. And that is the point I am getting at here. We need to uproot the old narrative I mentioned. It is the single biggest thing between us, not just us in this room, us, all of us, and harnessing our innovative potential. We need to reach the next generation, the kids, in school, and tell them that they are capable of inventing if they want to, if there's something that they think they can make a difference with. And I've been advocating for that for the past 4 years through talks at the White House, talks at South by Southwest, TEDx talks, and more. And it's happening. We have invention education programs in over 18 states, and it's growing. But it can't stay here in the US. It has to be worldwide. There are, what, 300 and some million of us in America, but 7 billion worldwide. That's 7 billion unique perspectives, and it's those unique perspectives, not just sheer education in a field, that bring the interesting, unexpected solutions to the hard problems. Take, for instance, the young 14-year-old Richard Terrer, who invented a system. oh dear. A system to scare lions away from his cows so that he didn't have to patrol at night to scare the lions away. It's now being used all across Africa. Or take the young intern at the lab of world-renowned nanotechnologist Joseph DeSimone. The lab staff didn't want an intern that young. They figured the guy couldn't contribute anything, but DeSimone decided to keep him. And when it came time to figure out the geometry of nanoparticle to be used in inhalers, like the ones used for asthma, he suggested a maple seed design. And it significantly outperformed anything anybody else had suggested. My point is that we don't know who's going to have the right perspective to solve a problem. And so we can't make the Inventors Club exclusive. Unfortunately, most of innovation goes on in silos. The research and development departments of corporations, governments, team-based challenges like X Prize, and even when these teams collaborate, they can run into stagnation, everybody thinking along roughly the same lines. And in these situations, it takes an unexpected, incongruous perspective to break that up. And these incongruous perspectives help because they think outside the box simply because they don't know the preconceptions that the experts come into the field with. Take, for instance, the dyslexic vice president of my grandfather's company. When they ran into a difficult physics problem, he could look at it from a very literally different perspective, getting them out of many a pinch. Now, innovation management companies are trying to access these unique perspectives, but they're doing it one company, one problem at a time. And they're dispersed across the internet. It's incredibly difficult to find the problem that you can solve, the problem that interests you. Looking across the internet for random challenges. So we need a hub of open innovation that, thank you, okay. We need a hub of open innovation that delivers problems intelligently to users. So I'm working on a company called uSolve. uSolve will allow organizations to post their problems on the platform with a prize, and then users go through, submit solutions, and are able to comment on each other's solutions and upvote them, helping to sort out the most promising solutions to the top. And because they're able to see each other's ideas, they can learn from each other and collaborate, giving better value to them and to the businesses and other organizations asking for solutions. It'll also be a bit like LinkedIn in that it'll allow people to post their credentials. So if a company is really impressed by something somebody says, then they can find out a bit more about them, and if they want, hire them. It'll improve team building across all fields. It'll also incorporate some features of online dating apps using machine learning algorithms to match problems to users so that you don't have to slog through potentially thousands of different problems trying to find something that interests you, that you can work on. It'll be right in your feed, making everything that much easier. Now, uSolve will have a wider base of problems than any open innovation challenge before, and will hopefully have a wider base of users. Imagine this. You're a a marine biologist on your way home from work, and you've decided you're not going to go and look at Facebook. You want to do something that matters. So you pick up uSolve, and you start swiping through the problems, swiping mostly left, until you find one on, what is this? Oh, wind turbines. Well, I've been looking at the fluid dynamics of blue whale fins, and that would actually be a great improvement to wind turbines. That connection would otherwise seem quite serendipitous, but uSolve will encourage those connections and make them happen not by chance, but by intelligent design. So, at the moment, uSolve is in the seed funding stage. But I'm confident that USolve can be exactly what innovation, the gig work economy, and the world at large needs, which is the complete democratization of problem solving. And remember, you never know who has the right perspective to scare away the lions, envision nanoparticles in flight, or maybe even solve world hunger. Together, I think we can get all those perspectives in on this. Thank you.